This is Newsroom. Hello there. Welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. I'm Evan Hansen. The show, of course, always live and broadcast from our studios right here in Auckland Park. Don't forget, we also stream live on YouTube at this time with the whole show available later on demand on our YouTube channel. Now, today we start with the 38th anniversary of Bantu Steve Biko's death in custody, with the Steve Biko Foundation launching a 3-month campaign. Then our question of the day. Well, we ask you, how do you view the discovery of Homo naledi at Maropeng? That was announced yesterday. At SABC Newsroom is where you can give us your answer. You can also tell us whether you'll be visiting the site there over the weekend, or maybe even later. The hospital set up by the Gift to the Givers in Syria is now the largest in the battered country. We also look ahead to the beatification of Benedict Daswa in Limpopo this weekend. There's a cool story about a student brewery that has gone commercial rather in Cape Town, and we close with Bok Friday as the men in green leave for the World Cup later today. But first, let's get the day's news from Anindoma.
Good morning, I'm Anindoma. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines today. The newly appointed Hawks boss, Mthandazo Bering Plemeza, says he's ready for his new role. Yesterday, Police Minister Nighting Clerco announced his official appointment at a media briefing in Parliament. Plemeza had been acting in the position since Anwar Dramat was suspended in December and resigned in April. Meanwhile, the Helen Suzman Foundation and the DA say they are disappointed with the new appointment, but the Police Minister has given assurance that Plemeza is the right man for the position. Czech fugitive Radovan Krecher and his co-accused are expected to know their fate today. This as Judge Colin Lamont is expected to hand down sentence for the group. Last month, they were convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs at the Johannesburg High Court. It was the first conviction against Krecher in the country. He is on trial for 4 separate matters in South Africa's courts. In KwaZulu-Natal, 2 men who murdered a woman living with albinism have been sentenced to 20 years imprisonment each. 4 suspects, including a local pastor, were arrested after the victim's mutilated body was found in a shallow grave last month. The NPA in KwaZulu-Natal says the sentence will send a strong message to criminals. It's set to be a busy weekend for the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site. The Gauteng Tourism Authority expects an increase in the number of visitors to the site in Maropeng following the discovery of the new species Homo naledi. Yesterday, the species was revealed to the world by a host of scientists at the site north of Johannesburg. Today, President Jacob Zuma and his Mozambican counterpart Felipe Nyusi will unveil a monument in Maputo, this in remembrance of MK soldiers killed by apartheid forces in 1981. In Japan, rescuers are still searching for more than 20 missing people in a flooded city north of the capital of Tokyo. Over 6,000 homes in the city of Joso are underwater. The deadly floods have forced more than 100,000 people to flee their homes. And the green and gold send-off for the Springboks has started at Monte Casino in Fourways this morning. The Boks are set to leave for the 2015 Rugby World Cup in England tonight. Well, remember you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just remember to search for SABC Newsroom. Of course, you can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Thank you very much. And in commemoration of the 38th anniversary of Bantu Steve Biko's death in police custody, the Steve Biko Foundation has launched for the first time a 3-month-long campaign. Hashtag Biko Month 2015 is a celebration of Biko's life through activities and events that will be taking place nationally as well as internationally. This year's memorial lecture will be delivered by former Mozambican President Hakim Chissano. and will reflect on Mozambique's 40th anniversary of independence and on the influence of the Frelimo movement on the black consciousness philosophy. The campaign will end on the 18th of December later this year, which will also be Steve Biko's birthday. Now, we are joined in studio today by the Chief Executive Officer of the Steve Biko Foundation, Obanewa Amponsa. Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Just tell us what you've changed this year with the commemoration, what you're looking forward to this weekend, and then into the 3-month campaign.
Well, we often find that people tend to pay a lot of attention to September 12th because that's the anniversary of Steve Biko's death in detention. What we've said this year is that in addition to commemorating the death, we'd want to ensure that people really have an opportunity to understand what he stood for while he lived. And so we'll be taking this 3-month period until his birthday, as you say. He would have been 69 in December, really to look at his philosophy, his ideas, the things that made him who he was.
Black consciousness in South Africa in the 21st century. Where is the movement?
I think that the movement is very much alive. It's there. Young people more than ever are looking to interact and engage with Biko's legacy and also with the legacy of the Sasso generation. And I think that not only in South Africa, but internationally, black consciousness remains very important. Remember, it's an ideology that both deals with the structural issues of racism and exclusion, but also the personal issues in terms of ways that we have inherited a superiority or inferiority complex. And I think that many people are asking questions around the world and in South Africa about who they are and how we contribute to the type of society that Biko envisaged.
Now, black consciousness was the prevailing and dominating philosophy when Mozambique obtained independence. How did the two influence each other?
Well, in general, liberation movements in Southern Africa and throughout Africa were very well connected. People were looking at one another's ideas, talking, drawing inspiration from one another. And many of your viewers will know that in 1974, when Mozambique attained independence with the fall of the Portuguese colonial regime, Sasso actually had a protest both at Curry's Fountain in Durban and the University of the North at the time, really to honor Frelimo and to say to the South African government of that day, look, it's happening next door, it's going to happen at home. Which side of change do you want to be on?
So, some political affiliations in South Africa, one, the Azanian People's Organization, they say that we have, and not just in South Africa, but Africa in general is out of step with the legacy of Steve Biko, and that we've not moved Steve Biko's ideals any forward in 38 years. How do you view that?
I don't think it's quite correct to say we haven't moved forward at all in 38 years. The truth is, 40 years ago, you and I would not be able to be in this building having this conversation. 40 years ago, 38 years ago, Steve Biko was actually a banned person. We couldn't have uttered his name or talked about his ideas in public. And so I think we have moved forward tremendously, and it's important to acknowledge that. But also in acknowledging the successes, we must be honest about the places that still challenge us and really work together to find the solutions to those things. I think sometimes, for whatever reason, when we talk about African issues, we tend to throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
But this is really about saying, this is what we've accomplished, these are the methods that have worked, and this is what we're going to do to continue to move us into the 21st century.
Why do you then think today do we have so much political division and practices of division on the continent? Black consciousness and the ideals of the great man, was it not to overcome those divisions and to understand that as Africans we should think about being united and speak with a united voice?
Well, Eben, I don't know that we are actually more divided today than we've ever been. I think one of the main issues that perhaps makes it seem like we're more divided, things like social media. In 140 characters, I can interact with anyone around the world and see, in one instance, a Hungarian journalist tripping a refugee running from the police. 40 years ago, we didn't have that. I think the difference is now that we're more aware of some of these things. The question then is, how do we use social media and other new technologies to highlight the things that bind us, but also to develop new strategies for moving us forward?
Now, this year you're launching a 3-month campaign.
Yes.
Which starts tomorrow?
Well, yes,
and runs until Steve Biko's birthday on the 18th. Tell us about the peaks that we should be on the lookout for during this time.
Well, there are a number of very exciting events that will be happening throughout Gauteng, South Africa, and even abroad. Your viewers can visit our website, www.sbf.org.za, to get more information about what we'll be doing. But one of the main highlights will be on November 12th when President Joaquim Chissano, the former president of Mozambique, delivers the 16th annual Steve Biko Memorial Lecture. We're very excited that this year we'll actually be having it at UNISA for the first time in Pretoria. So your viewers should definitely join us for that.
Well, Obeneo Mponso is the CEO of the Steve Biko Foundation. Thank you for joining us this morning. Interesting to talk about this, of course. Tomorrow, 38 years ago, Steve Biko would have died in police custody, a landmark day in the history of not just South Africa, but the African continent and the Black consciousness movement. Of course, there'll be a celebration of his life until his birthday on the 18th of December later this year. Please be on the lookout. Now, scientists yesterday unveiled what is considered to be a game changer in the ideas about our human ancestors. Homo naledi was discovered in the cradle of humankind about 40 kilometers west of Johannesburg, and many have reacted to this find. The African Christian Democratic Party has come forward and supports scientific endeavors, believing God has many hidden mysteries still to be discovered by mankind, and that they believe the discovery will not change the view on creation and the Bible. There have been varying views all over social media. Let's have a look at some of those views. Very interesting discovery changes the game. We'll talk about these things in the months and weeks to come, I'm sure, but these are some of the views. Jay Ponky says, Homo naledi, Wits might be offered millions for naledi fossil to be preserved amongst prominent discoveries in a London or New York museum. Why must it always leave our shores, I ask. Lord Elisa says, are we claiming the first generation of humankind was in South Africa? Homo naledi? Or how is this measured? America must intervene. I laugh out loud. Yeah, no, we have a crisis of confidence, don't we? Mashilo Makoso says, why are all these people touching and kissing a fossil? What happened to preservation with all these lips and fingers imprinted? Yeah, you should write a letter to the Deputy President maybe and ask him. Infidel says, Homo naledi as always, science showing us where we are coming from. Yes, a lot of those questions will be answered, and there's the picture or the remake of what we understand Homo naledi would have looked like. 1.5 meters tall with a brain the size of an orange. My word, wouldn't say. On Monday, the Department of Home Affairs said that South Africa has not yet been asked to provide help during the European refugee crisis, although the Deputy International Relations Minister says South Africa should South Africa be called on to help, we would be prepared to do so. But one South African humanitarian organization has already been making a difference on the ground. Last week, Gift of the Givers launched a new hospital in Syria to further assist with the crisis. The conflict in Syria has entered its 5th year, leading to more than 4 million people fleeing the country and, well, displacing at least 1 million people internationally now. Gift of the Givers set up an emergency hospital in Darkush in January of 2013, and this has since become the largest and possibly only effective hospital in all of northern Syria. But as the conflict in Darkush grew, a cause for significant intervention was needed. Now, joining us today in studio is Gift of the Givers founder, Dr. Imtiaz Patel. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us once again.
Morning, Eben.
I'm thinking out loud, actually, because I'm thinking that this country has literally been flattened by bombs and fighting for the last 5 years. Just paint us, before we talk about the hospital, paint us the picture of what is emerging of the Syria that is today.
It's a living hell on earth. The refugees are a good face of Syria. It is indicative of a greater catastrophe inside the country. People inside the country have been going through a rough time. That's why there's such a huge exodus. And I'll give you a simple picture. Hospitals, clinics, health centers, ambulances, physicians, doctors deliberately targeted and bombed. Schools, other education institutions, places of prayer, civilian areas bombed. People cut off from water, electricity, no housing, no medical support, no water, eating cats, eating rats to survive. Psychologically and emotionally broken. 400,000 people in detention. Torture extreme in the country. People being bombed with barrel bombs, vacuum bombs, chemical weapons, aircraft direct hits, missiles, and anti-aircraft guns, ripping the bodies apart. First hospital that you mentioned in the introduction, if that hospital could talk, it will verify everything that I'm saying. Because we got pictures, records of every single patient that has come to that hospital. Our hospital itself has been a target of bombing. They've tried many times to hit it, but the spot that we chose was between two mountains. So it's not that easy to hit. Although in April, just after the Nepal earthquake during that time, they managed to blow the windows and the doors away of the hospital. And it has been struck, but in that street, when they couldn't get the hospital, they flattened the entire street, and one of my workers died in one of those bombs. And we've had patients with chemical weapons and barrel bomb and vacuum bomb injuries coming to that hospital.
Why don't we see these kinds of atrocities being reported on in the media? It's almost like there's a blanket ban, a blackout as to what's happening in Syria. It's something that I find very concerning.
That's the first thing that struck me the moment I walked into that country. I've been to other war zones. And the moment you know when you're in a war zone is when you see all the satellite dishes, all the vehicles, all the UN cars. The moment you walk in, you say, yes, I'm in the right place. But when I walked into Syria in October 2012, and again in December 2012, the thing that struck me was the absence of media, the absence of UN agencies, the absence of humanitarian agencies from all over the world. When you walked into Bosnia, they were just everywhere. There was no place where you couldn't see them. The biggest media team that entered Syria was the South African media team that came with us in April of 2013. So this is, to me, a silent war. And the picture of one child, dead child on the beach, some people say now, should we show a picture or shouldn't we show a picture? That picture has re-highlighted what has been happening in Syria. But we need to move away from Europe. We need to go back to Syria, and we need to focus inside. The journalists have to go back. And people can't say journalists are afraid to go into war zones. Journalists love to go into war zones. They find that a thrill. So they want to go to war zones. There has to be some reason why they're not going back. And countries need to focus inside Syria rather than outside.
Are you surprised by that kind of media coverage? And are you surprised by the kind of media coverage that we see of the refugee crisis that's happening in Europe, where these refugees are being called migrants? Some media houses are intent on making sure that it's seen as a negative in their country. We saw an image of a photojournalist kicking children and tripping refugees running away from police in Hungary. Are you surprised by this kind of media behavior?
Look, you have two types. It depends on the journalists themselves. You have compassionate journalists, you have sensational journalists, and you have journalists how to drive a political agenda or an agenda for different groups. You have that in every business. And I think just the picture of that child and the social media today, it just ignited the whole of Europe and the whole world. People suddenly woke up, hey, this is happening in Syria. And you find that the overflow of compassion. Humans have it, that no matter what prejudices we may have, this one child is a child. It doesn't matter where the child is from. And what made a big difference, it wasn't the government only that said yes in Germany. It was the people. They said, we support this. Bring them home. Yes, welcome cards. That made a huge difference to change sympathies inside Europe. But you must get in everything. Some people say, no, we're not happy. They're going to take our jobs. We're going to have that kind of. So that's quite normal in the media world.
Well, Dr. Suleiman, we came to talk about the hospital. Tell us quickly about the second hospital that you are putting on the
It's
ground.
a response to the attempted bombing of the first hospital, because we are afraid on several occasions already. I've pulled the hospital staff, the patients, and the equipment. Once we operated on them, we had to take them out and the equipment out of the hospital. And so as a safeguard, we've put up a second hospital closer to the Turkish border, but inside Syria. But there's no safe place in Syria. And the second reason is we can't cope with the patients. 3 months ago, we got 1,700 casualties in 10 days. And we're talking of massive injuries. And now the hospital just can't. From 3,000 patients a month when we started, we're now averaging 12,000 to 15,000 patients a month.
That is amazing. The numbers are simply scary. Well, Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, thank you for joining us, giving us a picture. One hopes that the escalating crisis will emerge and the world will be able to see what's truly happening in Syria and not worried about how refugees are going to affect their bottom line in Europe. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Iba. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, of course, today we also, it's 9/11 today, for those of you that forgot now. This picture comes from Mike Stamper. This is where all the media is going to focus on today, not on what's really happening and how thousands and thousands of women, children, young men are being killed in Syria. This is the picture today, and it's captioned, "Never forget the lives we lost on this day 14 years ago." We lost. Yes, the world continues to lose lives today because of this picture that you see in front of you. Now, let's take a look at what the world's newspapers are looking at. Of course, they're leading today with Homo naledi, the biggest archaeological find on the African continent. The Times in Europe reports a human ancestor previously unknown to science has been found in an ancient burial chamber deep within a South African cave. We move to Spain. The El País also reports that zone excavation conducted in the cave Rising Star, about 50 kilometers from Johannesburg, uncovered the existence of a gap of more than 1,500 human fossils, among which there are at least 15 individuals. Finally, in New York, the International New York Times says Senate Democrats delivered a major victory to President Obama by blocking a Republican resolution to reject the six-nation nuclear accord. Quick roundup of what's happening around the country here in South Africa today. Here we start in Johannesburg, where the sentencing procedures in Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir's drug dealing, kidnapping and attempted murder case is expected to begin. Last month, he and 5 other co-accused were found guilty. Still in Johannesburg, the murder trial of Sindisiwe Mangele, accused of killing her boyfriend, rapper Nkululeko Flaba Khabedi, is expected to continue in the Randburg Magistrates Court. Then in Durban, the man allegedly killed his wife with a hand grenade is expected to appear in the Magistrates Court. Mbuso Mwahosa attacked his wife in their home in Amanzimtoti. Yes, today the United States marks 14 years since the September 11 terrorist attacks. That was 2001, and that changed the world. Extremists on suicide missions hijacked 4 passenger jets during turning the aircraft into guided missiles against the 2 World Trade Center towers in New York and, of course, the Pentagon Defense Headquarters outside of Washington. Various ceremonies planned to commemorate the day. They'll be held in the U.S., including a memorial service at the newly opened Visitors Center at the rural Pennsylvania site where one of the 4 hijacked airliners crashed. Meanwhile, federal officials said yesterday they arrested a Florida man and broken up a plot for a terror attack planned for September 11 memorial event in Kansas City. Yes, we also had a terror alert here in South Africa, of course, earlier the week. Ironic that it all happens in the week of 9/11. Time for us to take a break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News.
Mavis from Zimbabwe examines female challenges using art to address them.
I'm not very good at talking publicly, but I'm very good at expressing myself through paints.
Cape Town Fashion Week showcases brilliant designs.
Trying to kind of contemporize the template, so to speak, of the East African kanga. So that is our trademark.
The Animal Farm story takes you down memory lane.
They're making a film about Animal Farm. A film? What you call a documentary. A what? A film, Muriel. They are from the BBC.
How could you let this be? I just need time to see where I wanna be.
My whole message has always been about love. You know what I'm saying? Just love, respect, and be honest.
Join Refulo Mulo on your one-stop arts and entertainment show every Saturday on Afro Showbiz News at 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back. Thousands of members of the Catholic Church will converge at Chitanini village outside Thohoyandou in Limpopo to witness the historic beatification of Chimangazzo Benedict Daswa this Sunday, the 13th of September. Benedict Daswa will be confirmed as the first Catholic martyr who may also eventually become the first saint in southern and South Africa. Benedict Daswa was brutally murdered on the 2nd of February 1990 for his Catholic beliefs and teachings, for refusing to accept the power of witchcraft activities that was prevalent in the area, as he believed then that this was against his religion. Pope Francis approved a decree that recognized his martyrdom in January of this year, paving the way for his beatification this coming Sunday. The beatification Mass will be celebrated by Pope Francis's representative, Cardinal Angelo Amato. In Pretoria, we are joined today by the Associate Secretary General of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference, Father Patrick Rakeketsi. A very good morning to you, Father Patrick. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. And how are you?
Very good today, Father. I want to talk to you about this historical occasion. Please tell us what will be taking place at the weekend.
On this Sunday, the 13th of September, thousands of Catholics will be gathering at Chitanini village in Thohoyandou to witness the celebration of the beatification of our local martyr, Chimangazzo Benedict Samuel Daswa, which will be presided by the representative of the Pope, Cardinal Angelo Amato, who will be joined by many authorities of the Catholic Church in this part of the world, and also thousands of people coming as well from the neighboring states around here to witness this occasion.
Now, Father, Benedict Daswa took a stand against witchcraft. What is the Catholic stance against the long-standing practice that still seems so prevalent, not just in South Africa, but throughout the continent?
Benedict Daswa took a stand against witchcraft. And it is an irony because he was killed because of standing against witchcraft. And in the Bible, if one reads, there are many verses which are condemning witchcraft. We have about 72 verses which are talking about the evil of witchcraft. And Benedict was, as a Catholic, as a Christian, stood against this. And what happened to him is that he was killed. But the Catholic Church is quoting the Bible quotation, Galatians 5, which talks about the witches who are not going to see the kingdom of God. And so the church is teaching that we have to be against witchcraft because it is not promoting the reliance, the trust, and the faith in God. And therefore, we as Catholics, we are teaching that witchcraft cannot take people anywhere. We cannot rely on the powers coming from outside. We have to fully trust in the power of God. We have to trust in the power of God.
Father Patrick, in today's society, the modern day South Africa and Africa, we see people with albinism being killed. We see pastors telling people to eat snakes and all kinds of other stuff. We also see the rise of, call it, commercial religion. How do you view witchcraft today? What do you define as the Catholic Church as witchcraft practice?
The Catholic Church is teaching against this over-reliance on the mediums, like the mutis, as you have mentioned them. The Catholic Church teaches the total trust in God. The Catholic Church, in its catechism, talks about the trust that we need in the power of Jesus. And all those who are baptized, all those who have been confirmed, people who profess the religion of Christ, have to rely on the power of God. And it is a distortion, we have to remember, that witchcraft distorts this truth that the power is with God. The power is with the blood of Jesus. And therefore, when people rely on these mutis, they are distorting this. And we are teaching as a church that we need to rely on the power of God. And therefore today, with the Benedict Daswa being beatified, and later on we will be declared a saint, we are saying people should rely on the power of God. And this Chimangazo will be one of those martyrs and a saint who will stand against this, and we have to rely also on his prayers, that he may intercede for the people who are being overburdened by these powers.
Well, Father Rakiketsi, I thank you for joining us today. It will be an historic event for the country over the weekend on Sunday, and we wish you all the best with the beatification of Benedict Dashwa. Thank you very much once again for joining us. That is Father Patrick Rakiketsi. He is the Associate Secretary General of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference. And, of course, he spoke to us about the beatification of Benedict Dashwa. That will happen on Sunday in Limpopo. Now, Mtandazo Burning Mklemeza has been appointed as the new Hawks boss. Police Minister Nathi Nhleko announced the appointment yesterday in a media briefing in Parliament. Views have been varied. Lots of people are happy, some people are not happy. Let's see what some of your views are. Wayne Lolly, it says, New Hawks head is Major General Mtandazo Burning Mklemeza, replacing Anwar Dramat, who was suspended and since has resigned. Thank you for bringing us that news. Fatuani says Presidency ZN has done well this last few months. Jiba, prosecution services secure. Mklemeza, investigator secure. Number 1 is secure. Those are some of the views. Keep it coming. Don't forget our question of the day, of course, today. How do you view the discovery of Homo naledi? That's the question. We pop it up. How do you view the discovery of Homo naledi at Maropengan? Are you going to go visit there over the weekend? It's going to be very busy. But let's move on and see what's on our Facebook page today. Meeting by the Mineral Resources Minister, Nwako Ramatlodi, and Mapela community leaders, as well as the Human Rights Commission and Anglo-Platinum, has resolved that a task team should be formed to fast-track development in Mapela outside Mokopane in Limpopo. Then, a monument in honor of 13 Mkhonto Isizwe soldiers will be unveiled in Matola, just outside the Mozambican capital of Maputo later today. And a record-breaking influx of refugees could help Germany's skills shortage, and companies should start training programs for asylum seekers to speed up integration. They're going to do very well in Germany. Anyhow, let's take a quick break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News.
Art is an expression like no other. Sculpture speaks a language that painting and other two-dimensional plastic art cannot reproduce. Maybe this is because sculpture points to something beyond itself in a way a poem does. Professor Pitiganduli's passion for Africa underpins his sculptural language.
I am the one that hallucinates in forms. I hallucinate shapes. I hallucinate my sculptures. I chew bones. I grind stones. I melt metal. I walk through the dense forest of ugliness in order to create the beauty of the universe, a universe of my soul.
The Nyrox Sculpture Park is undeniably one of Gauteng's, if not South Africa's, most incredible gardens. We visited the Winter Fair. And lastly, the James Hall Museum boasts beautiful vehicles that you wish you could take home. That's Kaleidoscope on Sunday at 5:30.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines today. The newly appointed Hawks boss, Ntandazo Bering Meza, says he's ready for his new role. Yesterday, Police Minister Nathi Nhleko announced his official appointment at a media briefing in Parliament. Meza had been acting in the position since Anwar Jamaat was suspended in December and resigned in April. Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his co-accused are expected to know their fate today. This as Judge Colin Lamont is expected to hand down sentencing. Last month, the group were convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs at the Johannesburg High Court. Krejcir is on trial in 4 separate matters in South Africa's courts. And the green and gold send-off for the Springboks has started at Monte Casino in Fourways this morning. The Boks are set to leave for the 2015 Rugby World Cup in England tonight. Well, remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just go and search for SABC Newsroom. Of course, you can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Anina. Although drinking has become part of student culture here in South Africa, to some students, there is more to alcohol than just indulging in it on a fun night out. Students from the University of Cape Town are gaining top awards and are the winners of the SAB InterVarsity Brewing Competition. The university's Munich Dunkel team, called Don't Dunkel With My Heart, is making an extramural activity into a PhD and even a career. Joining us today are 2 University of Cape Town PhD candidates, Brian Willis and Catherine Edward. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
Brian, if I can start with you, and please, it's not about gender, but you've led the UCT brewing team. When you competed against 13 of South Africa's other top tertiary institutions, taking the title of Master Brewers back to the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. What is this competition and how was the beer judged?
So, Eben, I've actually been involved in this competition for at least 5 years now, and I feel a bit, it's very much our advantage compared to the other universities where they don't have people like myself who have been there for as long as I have. The competition itself, as you already said, it's between actually, I think, 15 universities now and technicons from around the country. Each university has its own 50-litre microbrewery where they produce an array of 4 different styles of beer, and all those beers are put into a specific category. So, for example, our Munich Dunkel is entered as a Munich Dunkel and can be compared against a Vienna Lager, for example, which are 2 very different lagers, but allows an accurate comparison between the 2. And of course, in the end, when everything finished, our Munich Dunkel scored the highest score against its own category, which allowed us to take the lager prize and the overall victory.
Catherine, you've been doing this now for 2 years. Tell us about your involvement and how do people look at you if you tell them you make beer?
Well, I mean, obviously I've been involved for 2 years now, and as a chemical engineer, it's been really fun. And when I tell people that I brew beer, they kind of look at you and go, "What?" They're very surprised to see that women are involved in this kind of thing, and because initially I think, well, people look at a girl and they'll go, "Oh, she'll drink wine or like a cooler or something." But you know, a lot of people are really enjoying beer at the moment. It's become quite a big culture now, so it's really fun. I enjoy it.
I have to ask you, Brian, the beer that you guys are making, are you going to now make it commercially available? And what are people saying who've been tasting it and drinking it?
Even, unfortunately, even though it would be one of our big desires, we really can't go commercial for licensing reasons and also the perception of alcohol on campus at a university, especially in the Western Cape. So currently we have to keep really our toys in the cot and keep everything nice and tidy. Maybe, you know, we could take this recipe to a commercial brewery at some point and get them to produce a big batch, but certainly not from UCT itself. Yeah, but it's a great thing to do, and in terms of the feedback we get, it's a really clean, beautifully balanced lager, and whether you have tasters from your SAB who are professional quality control tasters all the way down to your social drinker, they all say this is an excellent example of a Munich Dunkel, let alone a nice refreshing lager to drink on a summer's day.
Catherine, are more women drinking beer in today's world or starting to enjoy drinking beer more?
No, definitely. It's become it's actually become quite trendy to drink a beer, especially with the craft beer scene becoming quite prominent. And I think the more people are exposed to it, especially women, you actually realise it's not such a it's not only a man's drink. So, yeah, it's changing very, very rapidly.
The girl's not counting the carbs, maybe.
Well, that's why we all drink Castle Light. But I mean, you know, you just got to splurge every now and then.
Quickly, tell me, Brian, are you guys going to make a career out of this?
That's the hope. I mean, we all one day wish to work for SAB, but if that doesn't work, lots of us have our eyes on maybe even open our own craft breweries as well, and really hitting it big time with a large system producing quality beers. And lots of us now, I mean, myself and Catherine, we're both going to have many years of experience with a small but professional system.
Yeah.
And being chemical engineers, that's the purpose of us, to take a small system like that and upgrading it to a full size, being able to keep the recipe consistent and hopefully one day going professional.
Well, congratulations on the awards, and you guys are doing fantastic work making beer. Hopefully one day I can able to come and give you my opinion on the tipple that you make. That's Brian Willis and Catherine Edward. They came to you live from Cape Town. Well, they're doing a PhD on making beer. If I had known that when I was a young man, I would have been all over it. Anyhow, it's Bock Friday. The Springboks will be leaving our shores tonight with high hopes of returning with a third world title. After much bickering about team selection and race, they will open their campaign against Japan next weekend in Brighton. If we take a look at the group, can we take a look at the group quickly? Group B. Group B. Please put up Group B. Yeah? You can't put up Group B. Okay, well, it's regarded as the easiest group in the tournament, with Scotland and Samoa as the two other featured teams in there. Can we have a look at the group? Now, there we have the group. Thank you. Well, the Boks are expected to top this group quite easily, some will say. But the fix or the trick comes what follows after this group. You know, if the Boks top this group, they will play the second place team in Group A. Now, can we have a look at Group A? Can we have a look at Group A? No? There we are. There's Group A. Now, Australia, England, and Wales, they'll be fighting it out for top spot in that group. Now, the winner of Group A will not have to face the Boks in the quarterfinals. That's quite a nice incentive for the Springboks. Well, if one can go by the form book, they will face either Australia or England. England, as hosts of the tournament, will be one of the favourites, so they will probably top that group. But Australia, don't forget, they sent the Springboks packing at the 2011 showpiece, and they won the Rugby Championship just over a month ago, so they might even be tougher. So the outlook is not that great. Now, our sports producer, Vincent Mofokeng, he's with me in studio this morning. Morning, Vince. Nice to have you with us.
Gavin, thanks for having me.
Vince, I want to ask you quickly. We're going to make the quarterfinals, no doubt about that. Australia or England in the quarterfinal? How do you view that?
Very difficult to predict. Well, we all know the Wallabies have won both the World Cups that were staged in Britain, and well, they didn't play so well against New Zealand. We saw them win against New Zealand and then lose very badly. Well, in 2011, we saw Matt Gitter coming back right now, and he will be playing a very important role in this World Cup. Kind of tricky to predict that one. England, very difficult to beat at Twickenham.
Yeah.
But my view is that Australia is the favourite one for me here. We're not going to perform that well.
I want to ask you about this team. The Boks team selection has been under the spotlight, of course. There have been issues with race. We want to park that. I want to talk to you about form over experience. Heineke Meyer has gone for experience. He says you win World Cups with experience. We've got a lot of experienced players, but we've left some of our form players behind.
Very true, Eben. I think, well, every coach has his own style that he wants to play. We know that Heineke Meyer loves his strong props and so forth, and we have a lot of experienced players in this World Cup, leaving a lot of very young talent that are fit enough to play here. I think right now we can see we're going to need this experience going in later into the tournament, but with all the injuries that are in the Springbok team currently, that could be a problem later.
Let's talk about those injuries that you just mentioned. You know, there's a cloud that hangs. We've got players going to the World Cup who's going to start who haven't played in 7 months. That's Farid Prayer. The captain hasn't played in just as many months. He played maybe 60 minutes here and 20 minutes there, the captain himself. Our entire loose trio have been out for the last 3 months. That's Dwayne Vermeulen, Francois Lowe and Willem Alberts. It's going to be difficult to play players into form at the World Cup.
Very, very true. Yeah, but when we look at, obviously, we look at Pat Lambie, Farid Prayer and them that have just come out of the injury list. My problem is that when you go to the World Cup and fitness is an issue and the injuries are an issue, Hanneke Meyer is gambling around. I think Hanneke is gambling with his players. With that, he leaves a lot of puzzle pieces scattered around going to the World Cup, and that for me is also a problem. We cannot, like you said, take players into the World Cup after coming from an injury. Chemistry is also an issue. They haven't had a lot of time playing together, and they cannot build chemistry at the World Cup. That's a problem.
No, you can't. No, I can tell you that the Boks will have their final. So they're having their final send-off at Monte Cassino right now. Monte Cassino, of course, is here in Johannesburg before they fly off to the UK. Thousands of people are expected already. Hundreds of them are there to wish them well. Let's just get some of the views of some of the fans who want the Boks to bring it home.
And your message to the Springboks.
Oh, my name is David Olu from the Valtra area.
And your message to the Springboks?
I wish them all the best. I've been supporting Springboks since early 90s.
And do you think they're going to win the World Cup?
Obviously they're going to win. Obviously. I know, I trust my Boks. I trust them. So.
Yeah, my name's DJ Legacy. Okay. South Africa is one of South Africa's famous DJs. I just want to say Beast must take over, crush everyone, and do us proud.
Do you think the Springboks going to win the World Cup?
Of course.
Who's your favorite player?
Beast.
Okay, thank you, man.
Sure.
The mere fact that Hanneke Meyer is taking injured players into the squad is not really a good thing, you know, because this is a World Cup. We're playing against a lot of good countries like New Zealand, Australia, and I heard the first game is against Japan. So I don't think bringing injured players into the squad would be anything good. You know, there's a lot of players that could be in the squad. You know, bringing in players like JP Peterson. Yes, I understand his experience, but there's more players with talent. You know, I think he should pick talent over experience and not experience over talent. Thank you.
Tell me, who do you think is going to captain the Springboks?
I think John de Villiers. Just because there's experience there, and he knows how to lead the boys. You know, you need someone experienced because there's a lot of youngster players. You know, like John Delindy. You know, there's kids. You know, Jesse Krill. It's kids that need someone to lead them. You know, and with John de Villiers there, I think he's gonna lead the pack properly.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
I wish the Springboks the best of everything. I'm sure they're going to do well, so we don't have to worry.
Hi, I'm Pamela Msomi, and I'd like to say to the Boka, go Boka, and home ground advantages anywhere in the world.
And your favorite player?
It would have to be Havana.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Runa Raringa. I'd just like to say to the Springboks that they should play very well and all the best.
I wish the Springboks all the best for the 2015 World Cup. They should represent us with pride and come back with the trophy.
Who do you think is going to be the captain?
John de Villiers.
Why?
No, he's shown great leadership in the past. I don't think he's been there for quite a while, and then he's been there. So I think he's gonna show us that he's a good leader, and he's gonna lead the boys well.
Thank you, man.
Sure, sweet.
Not bad, man.
Okay, I want to actually wish the Springbok a good luck. However, I don't like this thing of them actually promoting people in the squad of Springboks regarding their race, to say they want the racial equality and so forth, because we want only people who are going to go there and perform well and win for us the World Cup.
Who's going to captain the Springbok?
Sorry?
Who do you think is going to captain the Springbok?
I think Prime Havana, because he has been there for a while.
Okay, thanks, man.
Okay, thanks.
I am a bit skeptical. I'm not so optimistic about this World Cup. Too many injuries going to the World Cup. Yeah, but we are likely to reach the quarterfinals.
Yeah, you're not the only one that's a bit skeptical. You're not the only one. There are quite a few box supporters that are skeptical. Really? You've just got one of our overzealous crew members that's in shot today. You know, there's always a first time for everything, my man.
First time for everything.
First time for everything. I'm here with Ray Zaka this morning. Now, you're going to perform the hit No Backing Down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
You're with your good friend here and partner SFS. Good morning.
Sir.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's all good. Nice to have you with us.
Thanks, man.
Now, before you perform, tell me a little bit about No Backing Down. Is that about your character?
Yeah, basically, we're not going to back down from this industry. We're here and we're going to make this work. And this is just how we're just basically showing everybody that we are here now and we're not going to back down from the challenges of the industry and everything else. So
SFS, you like to perform with your sunnies on, am I right?
Yeah.
So put it on. Put the sunnies on.
Yeah,
there we go. That's a look.
Gotcha.
There we go. There we go.
Gotcha.
There we go. Now we're talking. Now we're looking bad. Come on, guys. Take us into the weekend. It's Ray Zaka and SFS with No Backing Down.
Yes.
Man, I break it like no more backing down. We up in the club, selector, would you turn it up right now? When I feel so irie now. Oh no, yeah. Here comes a non-stopper, man, I break it like no more backing down. We up in the club, selector, would you turn it up right now? When I feel so
we at the club filling it up, holding on like we never gonna let go. One, it's you and me from the get-go until we get go. You be standing like a scarecrow, like that's right next to the boy. Might just write you a check from the boy. I might just ask to get a tap at the boy and let him know that you swag for the boy. Okay, chala magenga for it so chala karabas kadi bala cause he damn close. VE the PC, let's get our chest on. Game of kings, but we never getting checked on. Check this, you always find me on against this. Fact is, I'm young, pretty reckless, fresh kicks, fresh to death like the less is. Best is the young boy from the northwest.
Yeah. Here comes a non-stopper, man, I break it like no more backing down. We open up the club, see later, would you turn it up right now? When I feel so irie now.
We going, some pacey left, right, reportari made. We going, keto klata get petty, on 180. We not entirely there, but we on our way. Because we on our way. Because we on our way. I say, you stick with me, one of them chicks with me. I pull out $1 score for free kicking. We're born limona, we keep drinking. We pop it, that Johnny Walker, that's why I got a beat dripping. My brother being dripping since